Denver Mayor Meg Johnston just delivered the State of the City address. The mayor expected to update us on the city's efforts on helping the homeless and affordable housing. Denver also facing a budget shortfall of $250 million over the next 2 years. Let's hear what he has to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm delighted. I think that was for you, Madam President. I think that was your congratulations. Well, welcome to the 25 State of the City. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you for honoring our new tradition of trying to do this in the evening time. I think it's a little easier for folks to get here, and so thanks for joining us. And you can have a drink afterwards, not have to go back to work, so that's also a benefit. So we thought it'd make it a little bit easier to celebrate. I do want to extend a deep thank you to the City Council. We had to get them a special bus to get over en masse from the City Council meeting, which normally happens tonight, over to this event. And it really is a momentous day in the City Council because they host elections today to elect the new leadership. And so I do want to extend an additional congratulations to our Council President entering her second term and our Council President Pro Tem, President Amanda Sandoval, and President Pro Tem Diana Romero Campbell. I also, a couple of other folks we want to recognize. Thank you to all the electeds that are here and all of our partners. I do want to say a special thank you to Governor Polis, who's here tonight. So honored that you took the time to be with us. Thank you so much, Governor. Please stand up. And also my friend and mentor who has led the city as ably as any mayor ever to stand in this seat, and that is Mayor Pena. Thank you so much for being here. Okay. Well, from our city's earliest days, Denver was never a sure thing. In the 1850s, as the country tore itself apart on the road to civil war, we were taking our first steps as a small town with big ambitions at the base of the Rocky Mountains. Local leaders had the audacity to nickname us the Queen City of the Plains. As an early community, we set our sights high, and then we lost big. The Transcontinental Railroad, a breathtaking invention of unprecedented ambition, this highway to hope, had passed Denver by when its builders decided to run the railroad through Cheyenne, not Denver. Then our little upstart Queen City of the Plains risked being relegated to a mere spectator in the story of American progress. But Denver refused to take no for an answer. Civic leaders mobilized to get a railroad line built from Cheyenne to Denver, connecting us to the rest of the country and the world. Looking back on it now, that moment marked a turning point. Absent the right leadership, the right progress, history could have passed us by. That innovation helped make Denver the center of much of the growth in the Old West. Some called it the capital of the Old West. It was made possible by dreamers and entrepreneurs who saw opportunity where others saw obstacles. It was leaders like Barney Ford, who when he came out here like everyone else looking for a silver claim, but was denied that mining claim because he was black, left the Rocky Mountains and instead came down to Denver and opened a barbershop, then a restaurant, then a hotel, then multiple hotels until he became one of Colorado's wealthiest citizens. And all the while dedicated his time to advocate for voting rights for black Americans, and then became the first black man ever to sit on a grand jury. It was immigrants in this city like the Irish and the Japanese and the Chinese workers who built that railroad spur in the first place, then stayed to build their families and build this city. It was pioneers like Casimiro Varela, who was born in Mexico and who didn't cross the border crossed him. After the Mexican-American War, when the southern half of Colorado that was previously Mexico became the United States, he was given a choice: stay in the United States and become an American, or go back to the now changed territory of Mexico. He embraced this new country, stayed, started a ranch, was elected to the state legislature, the state senate, then helped write this state's constitution and insisted that when that constitution came out, it was also published in Spanish and in German. You can snap for that, Julie. These were the founders who helped make Denver a leading city, helped make it the capital of the Old West, a hub for innovation, emerging industries, and the arts. And Governor Polis, you'll be happy to know, in 1886, we even had a baseball team called the Denvers that won the national championship. So all things seemed possible. But all kidding aside, it is important to confront the fact that the Old West wasn't open to all of us. Denver was built on Ute, Arapaho, and Cheyenne land that was taken through broken treaties and violence, and those families pushed out of Denver were forced to flee to Sand Creek, only to be massacred by American soldiers on Colorado's deadliest day. Our Chinatown, just blocks from here, was burned in race-based riots, and 19-year-old Look Young was brutally hung in the streets of this city. And just 100 years ago, the mayor who gave this very speech won re-election for his open embrace of his ties to the Ku Klux Klan. For too long, opportunity was offered to some, while many others were excluded and attacked or driven away. Yet even in those dark chapters, we saw the seeds of a different Denver being planted. We saw new opportunities created by women like Black activist Elizabeth Ensley and journalist Ellis Meredith, who led the fight to pass women's suffrage at the ballot box. In 1893, they persuaded an all-male electorate to pass it with 55% of the vote, making Colorado the first state ever to give women the right to vote at the ballot. I checked with the Colorado State historian. While not final, it does seem likely that that is the last time that 55% of men were right on anything, but we're sticking with it. The city then turned around and immediately elected 3 women to our legislature, including Denver's Clara Cressingham, who became the first woman ever to introduce a bill in an American legislature in American history. That tradition of inclusion and bold leadership lives on today with our current historic council you see behind us. 9 women sit on this council, 6 Latinas, now 2 consecutive Latina council presidents, and it looks like maybe a 3rd on the way. That all deserves a round of applause. But 160 years later, this proud city faces new challenges. How do we drive economic growth while still keeping Denver affordable? How do we add housing and transit without losing our connection to the outdoors? How do we ensure our city grows as safe as a small town where kids can ride the bike to the store without parents worrying? How do we build a city that's vibrant, affordable, and safe for all of us so that 150 years from now, our grandkids will look back with pride at how our innovation and ingenuity, and yes, inclusion, proudly established a new chapter of Denver as the capital of the New West. Some of what was true in the 1860s is still true today. We can look out from the peaks of these Rocky Mountains onto a country in crisis. Today, we face a federal administration that is cutting health care for the sick and food for the hungry, banning books, pulling people off the streets and sending them to prisons in foreign countries without lawyers or hearings, threatening to cut funding for roads and bridges if we teach the stories of Look Young and Sand Creek, withholding money for terrorism prevention and wildfire response because Denver believes, just as we did in 1860, that immigrants can help write the next great chapter of this city. And amid this political chaos, global trade wars are driving up prices for Denverites and threatening to shutter our shops and restaurants. Even the bedrock principles of our democracy, like birthright citizenship, are suddenly back on trial. But beyond a political crisis of our current president, we face something deeper, a crisis of identity. Who are we now as a country? The insurgent belief is a refusal to believe in anything but yourself. Don't believe in your government or your neighbor or your family. Tear it all down and just look out for yourself. Attack those who try, mock those in need, blame others, not just because of what they've done, but because of who they are. That is not only a recipe to prevent us from getting things done, it is a poison to eradicate our very human instinct to turn to each other when times get tough. That ideology would not only have failed to get us connected to the Transcontinental Railroad, it would have convinced us not to try at all. And it is that ideology of despair and defeat that this Queen City of the Plains stands firmly against. Denver has thrived because above all, we bet on each other. We believe in each other, and when things got tough, we work. We don't whine. We lean in and lift each other up instead of stepping back and placing blame. So in this moment, Denver can serve not just our city, but our country, by building a city that shines as an example of who we still are. People who dream, who build, who solve. People who don't abandon our values when they're tested, but reaffirm them. In that identity, in that commitment, I believe we will find the story of the New West. We will carry forward the values that made the West great: optimism, opportunity, a connection to the land and to the world. But when we're asked again to choose inclusion or exclusion, we will choose inclusion every single time. We will reject both the hatred and the division of the Old West and the cynicism and bullying of this dangerous new era. And instead, we will hold tight to the belief that we are stronger together, that we can build something together. And if we do that, I believe we can make this city proud. Let me tell you a bit about the moment we face now. We know Denver is no stranger to challenging times. In our first 50 years, we survived 2 devastating fires, a flood, the Spanish flu. Today, we face our own challenges, some fueled by national political instability, others by the ripple effects those decisions have on our local economy and our city budget. To meet this moment, we have to find a way to make government work better and cost less. That means staying deeply focused on what matters most to Denverites. And it requires deciding what priorities and programs may be meaningful in times of growth, but may not be essential in times of need. That's the work ahead of us in the coming months. And as we make these hard decisions, we will be guided by the same core principles. We will minimize impact on Denver residents. We will protect core city services. We will remain focused on our city's top priorities. We will stay focused on equity to protect those Denverites who are most at risk, and we will minimize impact on our committed and selfless city employees. Every month I host a pin ceremony where I recognize Denver employees who have served the city for 5 years or more. These are some of our incredible public servants who have steered Denver through good times and bad. Last month, I recognized Todd James and his wife, Ashley James. Ashley actually didn't tell me until after the ceremony that she was also up for her pin ceremony. But Todd has spent 40 years as a Denver police officer. He is the last remaining officer from his class of 1984. And his wife, Ashley, has spent 20 years as a 911 call taker, answering the phone anytime a desperate Denverite is calling for their lives. Together, this couple has dedicated 60 years of their life to this city. Todd was on duty the day of the 1987 stock market crash. He was on duty when the towers came down 9/11, rushing to secure city buildings when we didn't know who might be next. He kept this city safe through a historic Democratic National Convention, 3 Super Bowl parades. Love to do some more of those, Todd, if you could. 2 Stanley Cups, 1 NBA championship. And every day, especially on the hardest days, he and Ashley showed up with a big heart, a full smile, and a selfless willingness to serve. Can you please stand? Todd and Ashley James, could you please stand? Of all the things you could have done, we are so grateful that you dedicated your life to serving others and to serving this city. That is what our 15,000 city employees do every single day. And they do it even in the hardest of times. So the next time you get a driver's license, or walk into a rec center, or watch your trash get picked up, or send your child to an after-school program, or see a pothole getting filled or graffiti getting removed, I want you to know those city workers are stepping up every day in the rain and the snow, even in hard times like this when they are taking a pay cut to do it. Because they love this city, and they've dedicated their lives to serving you and delivering a Denver that serves all of us. And for that, we should be incredibly grateful. Living up to their example has been my administration's mission for the last 2 years. And before we turn to the mountains still left to climb, I want to just take a minute and celebrate the progress of the peaks we've already cleared in these first 2 years. On the first day of our administration, as you remember, we declared a state of emergency on homelessness. We did it because we had people dying on the street in record numbers. We had large encampments spread around the city. We had thousands of tents blocking access to post offices and churches and hospitals, strangling businesses and frightening residents. We started there because it was a humanitarian crisis, threatening the lives of people forced to live on the streets And it was an economic crisis threatening the city's post-COVID recovery. So we went to work. In the first 180 days, with the City Council's support and partnership, we acquired more than 1,000 units of safe, dignified transitional housing. We stopped sweeping encampments from one block to the next, and we started moving people into transitional housing in record numbers. We decentralized support services so people could help get needs met wherever they lived. Now, at the halfway point, we have done something historic. In the last 2 years, street homelessness in Denver has dropped by 45%. That is the largest multi-year decrease in unsheltered homelessness of any city in American history. We've closed every large encampment in the city. We've reopened sidewalks to pedestrians and businesses. We have moved 7,000 people off the streets and moved 5,000 people into permanent housing. And in the process, we became the largest American city ever to end the cycle of street homelessness for veterans, meaning no one who has served this country has to sleep outside on the streets of our city. There's more work ahead. We're not slowing down. But today, it is right to pause and say thank you to the thousands of city employees and nonprofit partners who show up every single day to serve those most in need, because they are the ones that make this possible, and they deserve our deepest gratitude. Our other top priority has been public safety. We focused on putting more officers on the streets and are on track to hire a total of 300 police officers during 2024 and 2025. We developed a comprehensive, multi-departmental approach to improve our streets and neighborhoods that were struggling with the highest levels of crime. We worked in partnership with community to do that proactively. So we reopened boarded up buildings, we closed predatory businesses, we added lighting to places that needed them, and after-school programming to places that wanted them. We deployed more officers in areas where they were needed the most. And it's working. In 2025, Denver has dropped our homicide rate by an astonishing 46%. That is the largest decrease of any of the top 100 cities, and adjusting for population size, our homicide rate is lower this year than any time in the last decade. Auto theft is down by over 50%, catalytic converter theft dropped by over 90%, and most of all, in the midst of all that, resident satisfaction with the police is increasing. Because we have officers out walking beats, building relationships with our neighbors on trust patrols. And in the midst of turbulent political times, our officers have stood up for freedom of speech and kept the peace at more than 200 demonstrations, both large and small, for these last 2 years. And for that, they deserve our gratitude. Let's talk about downtown, where we're standing tonight. Clearing downtown of encampments was only the first step toward revitalization. In 2024, voters approved the largest downtown investment in Denver's history, the DDA. $570 million without increasing taxes to be able to reinvest in our city center. The first thing we did with that funding, based on feedback from the community and our businesses, was to create a dedicated downtown police unit with horses, bikes, motorcycles, foot patrols, and already we can see the impact of that momentum is building. In May, after years of construction, 16th Street reopened with more than 100,000 visitors over opening weekend. We'll expect 50 new retail businesses by year end, the highest number of new businesses in years. Foot traffic is up, leasing requests have soared, and local restaurants report revenue gains are up 30 to 100%, and that's before you even go out to dinner tonight, which will make that number better. And coming soon, thanks to the council president's leadership on the Downtown Denver Development Authority board, they will be looking at catalytic investments to expand our parks, convert empty offices into housing, attract local and national companies to return to downtown, and create space for artists and makers and nonprofits. But to truly unlock downtown's potential and growth citywide, we had to fix one of the biggest bottlenecks: permitting. That's why we launched the Denver Permitting Office to speed up approvals, lower costs, and make it easier to build homes, open shops, and invest in communities. We took a process that used to take 3 years and made it a promise. Your permit will be done in 180 days of time in our hand, or we'll refund up to $10,000 of your fees, and that's a commitment. Record reductions in homelessness, record reductions in violent crime, record investments in downtown. The state of our city is clearly strong and growing stronger every day. But that is the story of where we've been. Let's talk for a minute about where we're going. The success of the last 2 years show that these problems are solvable and that we are the ones to solve them. And it also makes clear our work is not done. As proud as I am of what we've accomplished, I'm even more certain that what we've done is nowhere near enough. This weekend, we had a young man who died of a drug overdose alone in a stairwell. When we can find her, we'll call his mother to tell her that her lost son, the one she prays for every night and every morning, to come home, thinking that that baby boy will walk through the front door with a twinkle in his eyes like he did every day of high school. We will tell her that baby boy is never coming home. And that's not good enough. We still have business owners on Broadway who don't feel safe having staff members close up the shop and walk to their cars after work, and that is not good enough. We still have teachers leaving our schools and nurses leaving our hospitals to move back to Kansas or Kentucky because they can't afford to live in this city anymore, and that is not good enough. We still have 7 million square feet of office space in downtown, which means when Courtney and I discovered one of our local favorite restaurants, Cap City, will be closing after 20 years because still not enough of their customers have returned post-COVID, and that is not good enough. So I will promise you this. No one is more obsessively aware of the things that are broken in the city than I am. And no one is more relentlessly committed to fixing them. I notice every piece of trash, every construction project in front of a retail store, every unhoused person still looking for services, every restaurant just a little bit too empty for a Friday night. And the first thing I always ask residents when I see them is, what can we fix? I am not afraid of complaints from people who love this city. I welcome them, because every one of them is a gift that offers us a chance to get better. But what matters most when taking on impossible problems is to understand the power of momentum and the experience of progress. If you are dropped in the ocean and you're trying to swim to land, it can feel overwhelming. When you swim furiously for an hour and you look up and see you've gone no place, you lose hope. The greatest loss is not in the wasted energy. It's in the nagging fear that no matter what you do, it won't make a difference. That feeling is called learned helplessness. It's the despair that settles in when you feel like no matter what you try, it won't work. So you just stop trying. That is why reflecting on our progress is so important. The purpose of marking our progress is not to pat ourselves on the back for what we've done. It's to build our energy and our will for the work that still lies ahead. Denver is creating a new dynamic. Call it learned hopefulness. When you set a target for where you want to be in an hour, and you swim towards it, and you reach it faster than you hoped, you not only see the progress, we know our strategy is working. We see a path to success. We know we are bigger than the challenge, and we draw new energy and new inspiration to work harder. We draw hope from the clear evidence that when we remain committed to hard things, we can overcome them. Our biggest challenge is never the problem itself. Our biggest challenge is believing that we can't solve it. So armed with that learned hopefulness, with the evidence that our sustained collective efforts can make a difference, a historic difference, on even the most difficult of problems, here are the challenges we are gearing up to take on next. This starts with finishing our work on homelessness, where our progress shows us the path forward and we have plenty of work left to do. Halfway through the term, we are proud of our progress, but there is still plenty of work left. We know the next phase of the work will be different. The first phase was about closing encampments, removing tents, getting people connected to services, and we've seen the impact that has had on our city. But many of those still living on the streets now still have the highest needs. Struggling with serious mental health or addiction challenges, we know the best path forward is not an endless cycle of being on the streets, going to the hospital, and landing in jail, but connection to high quality and long-term support services. And we will find those for the folks that need them and connect them. We also know that too many families are laying awake at night in fear that they may end up on the streets because they simply cannot afford to pay the rent in Denver. Nearly half of Denverites can't afford to live in the city they call home tonight, and we know we need to bring on close to 5,000 units of housing that working families can afford every year to meet our long-term needs. If we don't make progress now, this challenge will be an existential threat to families, to businesses, and economic growth. That is why we launched with our partners, the Denver Housing Authority, our middle-class housing program that will make bringing on housing for working families easier and quicker. In today's world, we know housing is the safety net that every family needs to know they have financial protection against whatever storm is coming. It's the most important way people build and pass on wealth. As a city, we cannot lose sight of this challenge, and together we must find a path to create the housing supply that we know this city needs, and we will not stop until that is done. We have made dramatic progress on homelessness and on violent crime, but that's not enough. We all share the belief that our city streets need to be safe for all of us. That means an expectation that our residents are following the law and that the law will be enforced. Now that encampments are gone and violent crime is among the lowest this century, we are turning our focus to those quality of life crimes like theft or public drug use that impact many of us on a daily basis. By matching outreach with enforcement, we will address these types of crime to continue to make Denver a truly vibrant and safe city for all of us. For people struggling with addiction or mental health needs, helping them connect to high-quality treatment will always be the first option. And for those who are willing to accept treatment, we will always keep them out of our criminal justice system entirely. We've already seen the impact of this strategy work successfully through our Roads to Recovery program, which has helped hundreds of people get access to high-quality treatment and, more importantly, stay in treatment long-term. For those who continue to struggle or who refuse services, those who continue to commit crimes, we will hold them accountable, but we will work with our partners in the criminal justice system to direct them towards services and treatment as part of whatever those consequences are. We believe Denver can be compassionate and safe, and we are prepared to deliver both. Addressing these urgent issues demands our full attention, but we must also lift our gaze to the horizon and prepare our city not just for tomorrow, but for the decades ahead. That means remaining focused on how we grow sustainably and confront the climate crisis head on. We will continue, even in the midst of changing federal policies and priorities, to aggressively move our city off of fossil fuels and towards clean and renewable electric power. And we'll do it in a way that is both pro-climate and pro-business. That means electrifying buildings while keeping costs down for home and business owners. It means pushing to electrify our city-owned vehicles and building the charging infrastructure necessary for Denverites to easily transition to electric vehicles in their own daily lives. And it means taking bold steps toward building both a carbon-free downtown and a carbon-neutral airport. We will do this by converting the gas-powered steam loop that powers downtown Denver into a state-of-the-art district energy system that can heat and cool buildings without carbon pollution. Our commitments matter not just for the generations of Denverites yet to come. We need to do more to open up the opportunities for our kids and our grandkids that are here today. That's why in 2024, we launched the Mayor's Youth Works program, giving nearly 1,000 kids the chance to work and develop career skills over their summer break. This summer, we more than doubled that, connecting over 2,500 young people with summer jobs. We know that high-quality out-of-school time is just as critical, and we're on track to connect nearly 60,000 students with after-school programs by 2025. Thank you. A strategy that we know helps every kid find their passion, stay safe, and feel supported. At the same time, we know early childhood educators and out-of-school time providers are facing unprecedented demand and funding challenges. But that just means we need to work even harder to make Denver the best place to raise a kid or to be a kid, including remaining focused on our effort to bring affordable early childhood education throughout our 0 to 5 system, expanding high-quality after-school options for middle school kids so that every child has someplace positive to go that helps nurture their passion, and expanding more options to put our young people to work, knowing that a hard day's work is often the best way to learn skills, grow your self-confidence, and prepare for the future. This year, we will also work with the council in the hopes that the council will refer to voters a proposal to approve critical investments in that future with a new municipal bond. Some people ask why a city would be making new capital investments in a moment of economic crisis. This is the critical moment to leverage public investment to spur economic growth as these investments create jobs and deliver critical infrastructure that accelerates more private investment. Together, we are ensuring our story will be one of a city that grows and grows with purpose. A city where we invest in the communities we have today while building for the generations to come. Where we build housing that people can afford and sustain neighborhoods where every family can thrive. Where we improve walkability and access to public transit to reduce traffic and fight climate change. We can be the city where growth reflects our values, fuels our economy, and repairs decades of disinvestment, while protecting the character and identity of the neighborhoods that define us. We also must tend to the city's core infrastructure needs in order to keep growing. That means repairing roads and bridges, parks and playgrounds, libraries and recreation centers. It means ensuring safe crosswalks to get to and from the store of your home and every neighborhood. And that is why we are excited to work collaboratively with the City Council in an effort to build a bond package this year that will help the city improve and repair the core infrastructure that keeps us moving every day. I want to thank President Sandoval for her leadership on the Executive Committee of Citizens who helped bring this package together. I want to thank the more than 7,000 Denverites who raised their voices. And most of all, I want to thank the 13 City Council members who worked tirelessly with their residents and with each other to try to fix and build and work a package that they believe is best for Denver. We have deep faith in you and deep gratitude for you. Thank you so much for your leadership. Finally, we need to deliver on the revival of downtown. That starts with filling 7 million square feet of empty office space. We will take steps to convert about 4 million square feet of that space into housing that's accessible for middle-class Denverites. We will work with businesses to make sure the tenants we have downtown stay downtown and introduce incentives for startups and small businesses and nonprofits to come back to downtown. We'll launch ambitious efforts with the Downtown Development Authority to make public spaces and parks, childcare facilities, and art activations to make them vibrant. So expect more concerts, more festivals, more performances, more local retailers, more local restaurants, more wonderful experiences of the best in Denver, only in Denver. And we will, yes, continue to dream big and deliver big things, and do that in a way that preserves and protects the identity of those neighborhoods and the people that built them. We will do that through community-led growth, like the creation of the city's largest park in more than a century, like welcoming a women's soccer franchise, a new purpose-built stadium on land that has long been vacant, like investing in the Stock Show Triangle in partnership with Globeville and Elyria and Swansea residents. And yes, we will get a long-term deal done to keep the Denver Broncos in Denver. That is the work that lies ahead in the next 2 years. We want a city where everyone feels at home, where we grow strong and wiser and more connected because we embrace the difference of our stories and our beliefs and our histories. That is our dream for Denver. That can be our capital of the New West. Let me close with one final story. I met Violeta Gavrilovic about 3 months ago. She grew up in Belgrade, Serbia. And in 2010, she and her husband moved to Lahaina on Maui, and they opened a small hat store. And soon after that, tragedy struck, and the fires in Lahaina burned their store to the ground. And they had to decide how to start over. So they decided to take a vacation to figure it out. So they came to Denver to see their fellow countryman and the greatest basketball player in the world, Nikola Jokic, play for the Nuggets. Note, when she arrived that night, the Nuggets won by 21 points, so she was obviously a good start for the city. But while they were here, they came walking down 16th Street, loved the city, even under construction, found a vacancy sign and decided Denver was the place where they wanted to start over and dream again. So they moved their 2 girls to Denver, and they prepared to open a business in the middle of a construction site. And then, just months before the opening, the unthinkable happened. One day before his 50th birthday, Violeta's husband, Brana, was rushed to the hospital with an infection, which would ultimately take his life. And suddenly the dream seemed broken. What should she do? Move back to Hawaii? Or go home to Serbia? Close the store or go back to her original profession in public health? She could have turned back, the way Barney Ford could have given up when he lost his mining claim, or Casimiro Barella when he lost his country, or Elizabeth Eckley when she got told men would never support giving women the right to vote. But they didn't, and neither did Violeta. She pushed forward, She said she insisted on opening the store, and 2 months ago, with her daughter's hands at either side and tears still in her eyes, she opened Aloha Hat on 16th Street. And I was there on opening day to watch the store humming with people, too many to fit in that small space. And the girls were smiling and serving cookies. And Denverites who didn't know her story streamed in and asked questions and bought hats and just thanked her. Violetta persevered because she remembered the dream that brought her here. And she still believed it was possible, the dream of a city that welcomes you, that helps you build your own business on a street that's safe, next to great public transit, next door to the West's greatest theater and the world's greatest basketball player, with a home where you can afford to live, that's a short walk from a beautiful park where you can lay in the grass with your kids, with the mountains in the background summoning you to the wild. That's the dream that she still wanted. It's the dream we all still want. Violetta had the courage to see it, the courage to build it, even in the midst of the most difficult and terrifying of circumstances. Will you give a warm Denver welcome, please, to Violetta? What she reminded me that day as I watched her store open and cried was that realizing that dream doesn't mean it won't be hard. It doesn't mean we won't lose things we love. It doesn't mean we won't make mistakes and have to try again. Success doesn't mean a neighbor struggling with addiction won't relapse, or a gang member won't get pulled back into violence, or we won't lose a favorite restaurant. Even with breathtaking success, all of those things will happen. But that is not defeat. That is loss. And loss is a part of being human. But the antidote to loss is not victory, it's love. By showing up in those moments of loss, we can not only heal someone, we can do something more important. We can prove that we are not alone. We can prove that we are right to hope. We can prove that our hardest problems are solvable and that we are the ones to solve them. We will never build a city free from human mistakes. What we can do is build a city that carries you through crisis and a community who sees you and cares for you and supports you. That is the promise of a government that works and a city that cares. To make Denver the capital of the New West will require something different than what made us the capital of the Old West. It's not a railroad. It's not a new mineral to dig out of the ground. It's a shared belief by a diverse group of people that we can build a city that is vibrant and affordable and safe for all of us. And it is the mutual promise to do whatever it takes to make that dream a reality. A reality that every teacher can afford a home, that every child can walk to a park, that every working parent can access childcare, that every person struggling with addiction or homelessness can find help in housing, and that every Denverite feels safe in their own neighborhood. That is our dream for this precocious Queen City of the Plains, where we don't believe in can't, we don't believe in impossible, a place where we turn to each other and not on each other, a place where we believe in working to build something bigger than us that includes all of us and lasts longer than any of us, a city that can be a haven for those who live here and an inspiration to those who don't. That is our dream, our shared dream for what this city can be as the capital of the New West. So now, let's get to work. Thank you.